Sorry about the noise!
Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome back to Techno Talk. Tonight we are joined by Rydel. Hi Rydel, welcome.
Hello, Mr. Flasher.
Hello, hello. So Rydel, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where do you come from?
I'm Rydel. I'm from Amsterdam. DJ mostly, producer a little bit. That's what I do. That's what I am.
All right, sounds good. Sounds
for Techno Talks, that is the most direct answer I can give you.
Sounds quite exciting for the start. So Rydel, tell us, how did you start with music? What was your beginning?
My beginning was hardcore music. I was totally into hardcore from like 15, 14-year-old and became a DJ at 16 actually.
It's quite early.
Yeah, I went to my first party and there was a performer that was throwing records into the crowd and I caught one, and because I had a record now I can be a DJ. And I became a DJ.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So then you brought the record home?
It was just that simple, yes.
Wow.
I brought the record home and I bought 2 more records that same week and started DJing with one record player. No,
oh, record player.
I didn't know about turntables. A record player and a cassette deck and a CD player, and I was mixing stuff into each other because that's what DJs do, right? I had no idea what I was doing or did not know how to reach match or anything. I just tried.
That sounds quite creative for the start.
Yeah, I knew I was still young, so I learned. I taught myself. It took a few months to get into it, but yeah, my beginning is actually just that simple. A stupid kid that picked up a record.
Actually, I can say a quite creative and resourceful kid.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. So where did it go from there? So you started practicing at home, and how did you get your first gig? How did that look like?
My actual first gig I got because I was carrying my record case around to parties, hoping for a break, and back in the day, there was no social media, there's no, getting your fan base easy and posting a nice picture of yourself and, people start following you. I actually had to go to parties and try and get organizers to give me a slot to play. And there was one guy who was like, you know what, you can play a record. Come play a record with me. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, come on. And I was shaking like this, but he let me play the one record, and he was impressed. This was already after a few months, so I actually knew something already then. And yeah, that was my first gig, unpaid, just with how you call it, off of the back of another DJ. That was just like, I like what you can do, so stick around and play with me. So yeah,
nice. That's quite inspirational for the start. So where did you take off from there?
It took off much later actually, because the hardcore scene was not something that I wanted to stay part of. So I switched genres to more hard trance and trance at the time, which led me to be able to play in more regular clubs, and there I got the chance to blend in more with a wider crowd, and that is when my career in Amsterdam took off to
Techno Talks.
Took off as a DJ. So.
And first you were playing just in Amsterdam, but later on you went internationally.
Yes. very much so.
How did that happen?
That happened at first because of contacts. You know, in Amsterdam, and especially the clubs that I was playing in was visited by a lot of foreigners.
Yeah, as we know, Amsterdam is very international.
Exactly. So if especially back in the day, because you know I'm just that old, it was more of you play well and people hear you play, so then you get a booking because somebody's like, oh, I like this, and so I got to play first in other cities and later international because people were there and they were like, oh, we need some Amsterdam DJ and this guy is decent, so let's get him over. So those were my first international gigs that I got. And then Slovenia came on the map for me at least.
So how did it happen? Now you live in Slovenia, right?
Now I live in Slovenia.
So how did it happen from Amsterdam to Slovenia, from all the places you've been to, you could choose from?
Because of love. Isn't it always because of love? I met a Slovenian girl, so she came to work at one of the clubs where I was working, and therefore I knew where Slovenia was before. I had no idea. And she took me here once, she was visiting home and I went with her on vacation. And I was here for the very first time and I'm like, okay, when you move back home, I don't mind moving with you, that is, not a problem. And I liked it here, so then I just ended up eventually, after trying to establish contacts here and trying to get a break here to actually get to play here, I ended up playing more regular than that she could join me in Slovenia. So after we broke up, I still liked it here, so I stuck around and I'm still here. So.
All right. Well, it's great that we have you here.
Yeah,
so.
she is still there. So basically, everyone always thinks that I came here because of a girl, and I moved here and we lived happily ever after. But actually, she moved from Slovenia to Amsterdam, and she's still there. And I moved from Amsterdam to Slovenia, and I'm still here.
So you guys basically switch places.
Yeah, we switch places. She is happy there, I'm happy here, and that's the end of that chapter of my life anyway. So.
Awesome. So you also do production besides DJing. We've seen you around clubs, but I want to hear more about your production. Where can we find it? First of all, no, you'll tell us where can we find it after, but how did you start?
I started basically because it is needed as a DJ nowadays. It is needed to actually produce. You will not be able to further your career as a DJ easy if you don't do production. So I started to do production. It is not my thing. I'm a DJ first and foremost. For me, there's two directions. You're either a DJ and you do production with it, or you're a producer, and because you become successful, you are forced to become a DJ because people want to hear you, because you made music that everyone wants to hear. I'm the first, so I'm a DJ first and foremost, and the production is not my thing because DJing is in a club with people late at night. Production is sitting at home alone behind the computer and your synthesizers. That is a completely different vibe. For me, one is what I want to do, the other is what I have to do to be able to do the first one. So I do produce, but it's not my field so much.
All right. What gives you the inspiration? What inspires you? What gets you going?
Everything.
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 Tell us about everything.
It can be anything from bricking pot falling in the kitchen to to a morning orgasm to a freaking literally everything. It's sometimes you just hear something and you're like, oh, hey, you know what, that would be nice. Or, you hear a track and then you're like, oh, it would be nice if there would be. And for me, as in not really a producer, I often opt to pick remixing. Because a lot of times I hear tracks that I'm like, this track is great, but I would do this and that with it. And because the track already has the elements, I just rearrange the elements that work better for me. And I am quite adequate at sculpting a track to be effective. So most of my production is basically that. It's based on something that already exists, and I just make it into what I need it to be when I'm out playing. That is as much as I'm a producer. I'm not somebody that is just like, oh yes, I want to create this, or just so everything inspires me. It can be, a hip hop track, and I'm like, oh, this vocal would be useful, and then, and then I just make a Eminem remix or, David Guetta, whatever comes to mind. So, everything.
So where can we find your production?
Everywhere. Now, I do have a lot of production. I think I have like around 200 tracks or something released, and people do keep asking me to make music, luckily for me. So I do try to stay active with it so you can find it around. Now, basically, I'm sticking to Vesatonic from Vestax because he's the best guy on the scene and I trust him with my life, so I definitely trust him with my music. So whenever I make something, he's the to-go-to guy. I don't really try to, I'm not one of the guys that's like, oh, I must be on drum code. I every once in a while I'm like, oh, maybe this would go in that direction, but otherwise I'm not much of a label hunter. So you can find my music around, mostly on Bandcamp or given away for free because I just made it for fun. So.
Oh, awesome! And that's the spirit of being playful and just going along with being playful and creative.
Exactly. It's not really my thing. I like it when other people. It's a compliment for me when I walk into a club. It happens several times that I'm actually at a party and I hear my own music played, in front of people, and I like it. But it's not really my thing. So it's more like, oh man, this is cool. Thanks. But otherwise, it's you can find my music around. I have had some big supporters, luckily, and I'm very happy with how the music making has been going.
So traveling around and playing around in different places, did you see like any differences between clubbing scene in some places versus the other places?
Yeah. I think it depends more on the organization that books you as a DJ, if they actually book the right kind of DJ. But yeah, on average, the scene is kind of similar in most countries, but there are just, in Croatia, I know, for example, they like it much harder than they like it here in Slovenia. And in Holland, when I came back after a while, I played like 127 beats per minute, which for me is really slow. And the guy that was playing after me was like, oh my God, you're playing so fast. And I'm like, seriously, this is not even my warm-up, and what are you complaining? So it really depends on the kind of party you get booked into. I don't really see much of a difference in culture between countries so much.
All right. Yeah, it's one big techno culture.
Yeah, it's basically techno, and it depends on, you know, are they focusing more on hard techno? Are they focusing more on this new school kind of techno? I got booked in Mexico on a party. The party had my freaking name on it, and I was asked to play hard groove. So I started going in that direction, and I noticed that the crowd just, you know, wouldn't pull anything over 130 beats per minute. So, and it's like, okay, can I go to what I'm asked to play, or should I adapt and play normal stuff? So it really depends. And in Austria I had something similar on a party where it was supposed to be techno, but the crowd that actually came to the club was much more house orientated, and I noticed that like really early in my set. So then you can either adapt and be like, okay, you know, I'm a DJ to make the people dance, so should I, you know, adapt and go more easy, or yeah, it really depends.
So I guess there's a fine line between what the promoters want, what the crowd wants, and keeping your own integrity as an artist. How do you deal with that?
It is a hard, it is really a hard thing to. I think if you're famous enough, it doesn't really matter what you do. People will just expect something from you. But if you are not, or if you are not quite there yet, then you have to be a bit more diplomatic and cater more towards the people that you have in front of you. So you cannot just go all out banging with your set, you know, even if that's what you would really like to do. Sometimes you just get forced to play a bit easier, and then it's up to you to decide, you know, oh, am I going to go with that, or am I going to stick with, you know, what I had in mind, or you never really know, especially when playing in other countries. That is really a big one, because you don't know really what you're going to walk into. And now it's easy because I can just pack a USB key and have there all of the genres with me. But when I first came to Slovenia, I came with 3 crates of records, just because I wasn't sure that people would accept the style of music that I got booked to play. And then, you know, on the party I had to actually check and see, this is going okay, let's do what I was set out to do. And, you know, you have to have your options, I think, as a DJ.
So playing so many parties in all these places, are there any special moments that stood out in any way?
A lot of moments for me stand out, because I am going for those moments. I want to create those moments. I really, that's the #1 reason why I became a DJ, to just endlessly create those moments. So I would say, you know, people coming from other countries to hear me play, that's really like, I still cannot, you know, fathom the fact that somebody travels from Italy to Slovenia just because you are playing on a party. That for me is such a compliment that I'm like, thank you so much. You know, when people tell you that, or, you know, they come after your set, they say something like, yeah, I know you from around, but, you know, we came especially for you because you're here. And for me, that's always the standout moment. So I would say, yeah, people coming from other countries just to hear me play. The most extreme one, somebody from America that came on vacation to Italy, indeed, came to Vauks to get my signature.
Wow.
That's like, I'm just me, you know, I'm just another guy, I make music on the computer, and for her it meant so much that I gave the signature and a hug, and that she got to listen to me live, that I was really like, I don't know, like I don't even know how to respond to that. That was like one of the standout moments. So.
Wow. Oh yeah, that truly is.
Yeah. There are a few. Also, a friend of mine in Scotland, he was struggling with disease for a long time, and he contacted me afterwards, and he told me that my music got him through that whole period, and I'm just like. I'm just people like Dave Clark and Ben Sims, those are the people that are actually like, oh, up there, wow, why am I there, so.
Wow.
But those moments,
yeah.
those are standout moments for me that I'm like, okay, I guess I did something right, those would be the standout moments.
Oh, you obviously did.
Yes, if you can in somebody's life make such a difference, then that is a big thing, I think.
So knowing the techno scene and being involved in it for a lot of time right now, knowing it in and out, what would you say?
In and out.
What would you say would be? What can we do to make the scene even better? What does the scene need?
Then it depends really on which aspect you're focusing on. From organizing aspect, like stop organizing similar parties on the same freaking weekend. That would really help the scene. In Slovenia, people do not know how that works. For DJs, I think what would really help the scene is if every freaking person in the scene would know exactly what a DJ does and how the equipment works, because then we could point out all the pretenders and wannabes that are just standing there being like, I'm a DJ. Then we could say like, hey, I saw you do something that didn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that would really help the scene if we could get rid of all of the posers and just stick to the people that are actually, that people that actually have the skills needed to be a DJ.
So when you're performing on stage, is there anything that annoys you?
The music not being loud enough.
Okay.
That really annoys me. No, when I'm on stage, I'm just on stage. I basically ignore everything. Just, I look up at the people in front of me and I see the first row of people and the equipment. As long as my setup is okay, the music is loud enough, I'm fine for the whole set. And if the music is not loud enough, that is really
that's a problem.
Yes,
yeah.
I like to enjoy the music that I like to play in front of people. I want to hear it loud. So yes, I need to have good monitors. I don't use headphones, so it needs to be loud.
All right. So all the promoters and technicians, take this.
Get me good speakers.
Okay, Rydel, we are coming closer to the end, just towards the end.
I have more shit to serve.
I would like to ask you. I know there is a lot of our viewers are trying to get into the scene. I know there are old ravers watching that, and other people in the scene, outside of the scene. But there's also a lot of young people who are trying to get into the scene, become a DJ. What would you say? Like, what would be your advice to them?
Learn how to play before you start DJing in front of people. Because there's too many people that are just like, oh yeah, I got a controller, I can put like 10 tracks together. No. First learn how to play, get familiar with different crowds, different genres, different times of the night, and then play in front of people. Not just like, okay, cool, I can do this, because now most of the equipment is so good now that it can do most of the work for the DJ. The beat matching thing is really, it's a necessity, but the players and the controllers can do it for you. So now half of the DJs just rely on that. and they cannot play on vinyl. God forbid that if they even touched one in their life. So it is needed to actually that you're able to play, really DJ, and not just let the equipment do the work for you. And a lot of the young DJs that I have seen actually have that the equipment does the work for them, and they just stand there and woohoo, I'm a DJ. You're not. Not yet.
All right, so learn first and then get
Yes,
into
learn
action.
first what it is to be a DJ, the struggles, and then you go out and actually start DJing. You're not gonna drive a freaking Ferrari if you do not know how to drive a freaking Fiat or whatever little car. Doesn't work like that.
Yeah. All right, so towards the end,
Somebody's angry in the kitchen.
yeah, it looks like, so we are coming to the end of our show. Wow, we are 5 minutes over. Wow, great, we're doing good.
20 minutes.
Yeah, we had 20
That's
minutes.
how I have hours of material and 25 minutes is what you give me.
Rydel, I'm sure we'll get you back.
I'm leaving.
We'll get you back here, and we'll give you more time.
I hope so. I hope so. It's
Um,
always a pleasure to talk to you, and especially if it's about the scene. I have a lot to say. So
Just some words for the
ask
end.
me.
Some words for the end for our viewers.
I hope you enjoy the show. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Be sure to check out their next show because I know they have big things planned. And hope to see you around on the dance floor.
Thank you for joining us in Techno Talks. See you next time.